Jamuna Tira Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Gopi Mandir Divo Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya 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 Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Yamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishna Vasudeva Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Take from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 4, Text number 18. Jnanam Param Swatmaraha Prakasham Provacha Kasmai Bhagavan Samagram Api Shamam No Grahanaya Bhatra Vadanjasa Yat Rijinam Tarema Jnanam Param Swatmaraha Prakasham Jnanam Param Swatmaraha Prakasham Provacha Kasmai Bhagavan Samagram Provacha Kasmai Bhagavan Samagram Apikshamam No Grahanaya Bhatra Apikshamam No Grahanaya Bhatra Vadanjasayat Rajinam Tarema Vadanjasayat Rajinam Tarema Jnanam Param Swatmaraha Prakasham Jnanam Param Swatmaraha Prakasham Provacha Kasmai Bhagavan Samagram Provacha Kasmai Bhagavan Samagram Apikshamam No Grahanaya Bhatra Apikshamam No Grahanaya Bhatra Vadanjasayat Rajinam Tarema Vadanjasayat Rajinam Tarema
Jnana Param Swatmaraha Prakasham
Jnanam Param Swatmaraha Prakasham
Provacha Kasmai Bhagavan Samagram
Provacha Kasmai Bhagavan Samagram
Apikshamam No Grahanaya Bhatra
Apikshamam No Grahanaya Bhatra
Vadanjasayat Rajamana Tarema
Vadanjasayat Rajinam Tarema Jnanam Param Swatmaraha Prakasham
Jnanam Param Swatmaraha Prakasham
Provacha Kasmai Bhagavan Samagram
Provacha Kasmai Bhagavan Samagram
Apikshamam No Grahanaya Bhatra
Apikshamam No Grahanaya Bhatra
Vadanjasayat Rajinam Tarema
Vedanjasayat Rajinam Tarema Jnanam Param Swatmaraha Prakasham
Jnanam Param Swatmaraha Prakasham
Provacha Kasmai Bhagavan Samagram
Provacha Kasmai Bhagavan Samagram
Apikshamam No Grahanaya Bhatra
Apikshamam No Grahanaya Bhatra
Vedanjasayat Rajinam Tarema
Rajinam Tarema
Jnanam Param Swatmaraha Prakasham Vachakasmai Vanchmagram.
We're at the beach now.
A peak.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. My Lord, kindly explain to us, if you think us competent to receive it, the transcendental knowledge which gives enlightenment about yourself, and which you explained before to Brahmaji. Please repeat. My Lord, kindly explain to us, if you think us competent to receive it, the transcendental knowledge which gives enlightenment about yourself, and which you explained before to Brahmaji. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A pure devotee like Uddhava has no material afflictions because he engages constantly in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. A devotee feels afflicted without the association of the Lord. Constant remembrances of the Lord's activities keeps the devotees alive. Therefore, Uddhava requested that the Lord please enlighten him with the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam as previously instructed to Brahmaji. Hari Om Tat Sat. Madhyanatimirandasya Gyanajana Shalakya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katam Vedati Supadantikam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Krimet Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Tiracharya Pramanam Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Meshwaram Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namne Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paswatadhyashtani Namo Mahavatanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvaze Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So Uddhava is, when he thinks about Krishna, he automatically becomes overwhelmed with ecstasy and separation. So multiple times he is going into ecstasy. You can see here in different verses. And so here also talking about how it happened, the discussion between himself and the Supreme Lord. So he's narrating that to Vidura. And we see for the last few verses that Prabhupada is mentioning here the whole discussion between Uddhava and Krishna just before Krishna left the planet was actually to benefit Maitreya. So Maitreya, by the will of the Providence, he happened to come to the place where Lord Krishna and Uddhava were there, and he got to hear the entire Uddhava Gita. He was very highly benefited. So this is Uddhava considers this is the same as what Lord Krishna spoke to Brahma. The entire Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken to Brahma in 4 verses, Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So I would also like to read it sometime. So here Uddhava is recounting the whole thing. But the Uddhava Gita is mostly focused on the transcendental devotional service, how to perform devotional service. Krishna did not have to start from that you are a spirit soul, as he did with Arjuna in chapter. So he went through the entire kindergartens there to chapter 10 or grade 10. From grade 10 on is the Uddhava Gita. So he continues to explain to Uddhava different ways to do, or the different aspects of transcendental devotional service to Supreme Lord. And he also goes on to explain the Varnashrama system, the Devi Varnashrama system, how all different Varnas can work together in communion, in serving the Supreme Lord. This is very, very important instruction. So with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met the scholar in Udupi, Madhva scholar, so he asked what is the most highest teaching from the Vedas. So the Raghuvarya Tirtha, the scholar at that time, the pontiff of Mutt, so he mentioned that all performing the Varnashrama duties is the highest. He mentioned that performing Varnashrama duties for the pleasure of the Supreme is the highest. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned as one step higher to that, which is the Panchama Purushartha, or the highest of all desirable objects of the human being, which is the pure bhakti, pure devotion. Pure devotion transcends everything, varna, ashrama, heaven, hell, or anything. No designation, there's no duality there. So there is complete desire to please the Supreme Lord. Anya abhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhi anavritam anukulyena krishna anushiranam bhakti uttama. That is the definition of uttama bhakti. So in the same, Rupa Goswami also mentions what is the bhakti and what is uttama bhakti. So bhakti or devotion is sarva upadhi vinirmuktam tat paratvaya nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchyate. So engaging service, engaging the senses in service of the Supreme is bhakti, but that is not uttama bhakti. So that is called what we generally mention as dovetailing. So we dovetail our propensities in Krishna's service. So that is still not in the highest level. So we have a desire, we have a lot of money, we want to engage something in Krishna's service, we can do something. So we have a good skill in singing, you want to engage in Krishna's service, you can do that. You have a skill in gardening, you have a skill in different things, you can engage in Krishna's service. So that is a first step towards bhakti. But the highest, the uttama bhakti according to Rupa Goswami is anya abhilashena shunya. That is absolutely no desire for oneself. There should not be any desire for any name, fame, glory, any kind of things. So that is anya abhilashita shunyam. And no kind of jnana or karma. Karma means material interest. Yoga kshema. Any kind of protection of what you have is called kshema, or yoga means gaining something. So usually we act on these two platforms, these two desirables. Either we act to protect what we have, or we want something new that we don't have, called yoga kshema. So it should be completely vinirmuktam, devoid of all those things. No material interest. At the same time, no speculative interest. So we have certain people have a certain motivation to engage their intelligence to find new things, especially like scientists and scholars. So they find a lot of pleasure if they invent something new, and that's a whole kick which you don't get otherwise. So that is something that is, some people like it, like scientists especially, and philosophers, even poets. They want something creative, write something creative, and that really inspires them a lot. So some people also use that for spirituality also. Find something new, or write something new. And it's called as jnana. Here defined as jnana karmati vinirmuktam. So it should not have any kind of an interest to engage our mind and intelligence in finding something new beyond what was told to us by our spiritual masters. And so that is called jnana karmati vinirmuktam. Anya abhilashena shunyam jnana karmati navritam anukulyena krishna anushiranam. So anukulya is very important. So So there is devotional service should always be for Krishna, for satisfying Krishna only, not for any of our own self-interest. Oh, if I do this, I also get this. We offer prasadam to Krishna, I also get to eat nice food stuff. So that is called, that's not anukulya. So that is our self-interest is there. So anukulya means only for Krishna's pleasure. Anukulya Krishna Anushirana. And pleasing Krishna, Anushirana. That's called Uttama Bhakti. That's the highest bhakti. So dovetailing one's propensities is very, very important. And Rupa Goswami does mention that in many places. In fact, coins the word Yukta Vairagya. Anashaktasya Vishayan Yatara Arham Upayurvitaha Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagyam Uchyate. So what does it mean? Anashaktasya Vishayan. So this is another further explanation of what is the dovetailing propensity. So one should act without any attachment for the sense object. Anashaktasya Vishayan Yata Arham Upayanjitaha. Use everything in Krishna's service as it is seen fit from the eyes of the spiritual master, not from our own eyes. So we tend to act from our own intelligence, our own mind. So we should act in footsteps of the previous acharyas and following their footsteps. And that's very important. Itarham Payanjitaha. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. It should be absolutely detached. Our way of utilizing that sense object should be absolutely detached from it. And should be for Krishna. Nirbandha means we have detached from ourselves, should be detached, and it should be only for Krishna. Krishna Sambandhe. That is what is defined as Yukta Vairagya. Yukta Vairagya Uchyate. So these three verses are guiding principles of the propensity to dovetail our propensities, and then slowly moving towards Uttama Bhakti. So we should always have that, the goal should be Uttama Bhakti, and we should see always, constantly monitor if you are moving in that direction. You should make constant effort to move in that direction. That is very, very important. So because we all have come here because we had some self-interest, we had some independent desire. And if we continue to harbor the independent desire, there is no way to go back to Krishna. Because we came here for that same purpose. So we should completely purify all our, identify first what is our defect, what is our anartha, what is stopping us, what is keeping us here, and slowly get rid of it. We should take help from all the senior devotees and spiritual masters to accomplish that purpose. This is very important. That's the only purpose of being here. To slowly and steadily progress towards pure devotion, Uttama Bhakti. And like to stop here and especially wanted to read the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, because it's also referred here how Krishna explained to Brahma, especially in the context of my spiritual master is not doing very well, so he's afflicted by some problems, health problems. So I request all devotees also to read with me the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. Can you switch it on, Brahma?
Yeah.
Yeah, switch it on. So we can read it gives us the full benefit of reading Bhagavatam. First we'll read Bhagavad Gita, Chatushloki, 10.8 to 10.11. Chapter 10, it's number 8. is chapter 10, text number 8.
It's so small. Okay, now it's there.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo
Sarvasya prabhavo
matta sarvam pravartate
Matta sarvam pravartate
iti matva bhajante mam
Iti matva bhajante mam
buddha bhava samanvitaha.
Buddha samamita.
You can read the translation also. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Next verse. You can read with me also. Machita Margata Prana Bodayanta Parasparam Kadayatascha Mam Nityam Nusyanti Charamanti Cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me.
Devoted to my service, enjoy satisfaction and bliss, always enlightened by me.
Tesham Satadayuntanam Rajatam Pritiporvakam Dadami Muktiyogamtam Jnana Mamayanti. One more to go. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Teshamevankam partam aham jnanajam tamaha nashayami atmabhavasto jnanadipena bhasvata. To show them special mercy, I am dwelling in their hearts, destroying with the shining lamp of knowledge that was born of ignorance. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. If we put the Bhagavatam, just give me a second. Does anyone know the verses for the Shloki Bhagavatam? It's
2933 through 36.
2933, 36, yes. Two, 933. It's got it. Okay. So you can read together or you repeat? I think I'll read, we can repeat. It might be a little complex. Aham evasham evagre
Ahameva samevagre
nanyat yat sat asat param
nanyat
paschadaham yat etatcha
Paschadaham yadishascha
yo avashishe tasho ashmiyaham. Translation. Brahma, it is I, personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself, nor was there material nature the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead, and after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the personality of God. Vityaratam yat pratiyeta
Vidyaratam yat pratiyeta
na pratiyeta chatmani
pratiyeta chatmani
tad vidyat atmano mayam
tadvidyat manamaya
yatha vasho yatha tamaha.
yatha vaso yatha tamaha.
O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in the darkness. Third verse. Yata mahanti bhutani bhute sucha vacheshvanu
Bhuteshu chacheshvanu
pravishatani apravishtani
pravishtani apravishtani
tatha teshu na teshvaham.
tatha teshu na teshvaham.
O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos. At the same time, do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created. At the same time, I am outside everything. Last verse. Etavat eva jignasyam
Etavareva jignasyam
tattva jignashunatmanaha
tattva jignasunatmanaha
anvaya vyatirekhabhyam
anvaya vyatirekabhyam
yat syat sarvatra sarvada.
yasya sarvatra sarvada.
A person
Who is
who is searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of God, must certainly search for it up to this in all circumstances, in all space and time, both directly and indirectly. Hari Om Tat Sat. So any comments, any questions? Any? Yes, ma'am.
I was also wondering about when it says you have to be free from fruit, desire, and jhana. Can you explain a little more about how we get free from jhana? Because I am a nerd totally. So just want to know.
How to
I
free
have
ourselves
to
from?
understand it. Because I know there's spiritual knowledge and there's material knowledge. And I'm always dealing with material knowledge, like how to fix this, do that, around the house, something like that. What does it exactly mean to have no desire for jhana?
Yeah, it's very subtle. So it's very subtle than material self-interest. So material self-interest is very evident. We ourselves can find it. But spiritual, speculative interest is. So we can easily identify by when we have some desire to kind of listen to some speculative talks and derive some pleasure on it, and also sometimes we tend to speculate. So when things are not clear, we should ask somebody knowledgeable or spiritual master or somebody who can help us. So instead, if we tend to speculate things, and that's dangerous part, and that's fine. But this is more in reference with the impersonalist philosophy also. So impersonalists, for them, the way of perfection is by means of jnana. So that's why even in Chaitanya Charitamrita we see how the Prakashananda Saraswati says the sannyasi should be reading the Vedanta Sutras. So he should not be doing singing and dancing. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned, I'm such a fool. My spiritual master thought that I'm such a fool, I don't really deserve to read the Vedanta Sutras. Because the easiest for me is to chant and dance, so that automatically gives me the knowledge and the happiness that I need to get. So that was the answer. So that clearly mentioned, the answer is right there. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thinks that definitely is very, in Kali Yuga especially, Manda Sumanda Matayo, Manda Bhagya Upadrita. So we are very unfortunate and we are very dull-headed as per Bhagavatam. So we definitely tend to compensate that lack of depth in intelligence to be able to understand this by being speculative. So that is a tendency that comes, and we have to avoid the tendency, and we have to always consult. That's why Prabhupada always says, every day read my books. Read my books every day, at least 5 pages of Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. So then we will be less speculative. We can avoid the tendency to be speculative, because it will remain fresh in our mind and our intelligence. So otherwise what happens is, to cover up for the lack of knowledge, we tend to be speculative. It very easily happens when we don't read the Prabhupada books. So we usually compensate by trying to say like this, and be confident about it also. Kali Yuga, hypocrisy is so easy to come. So we usually come up with some innovative and speculative descriptions that is very, very detrimental to our spiritual life. We need to be like a parrot to a good extent. Not necessarily verbatim, but we should repeat the words of the Acharyas. We should quote the words of the Acharyas. Prabhupada said, that used to be the early days of the ISKCON. This is very popular. So they would say, Prabhupada said this. But it is becoming less and less as the years progress. So that is not a very good sign. So we should always repeat Acharyas. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati also mentions that a Vaishnava quotes Acharya, quotes the Pramana properly, from which place and this, and not be speculative. That's very, very important. You have to always keep that as is, to remain pure. Purity is essence. So to keep things pure, you have to repeat the words of the Acharyas and not speculate. That's very important. Yes, ma'am.
Can I share something along what you just said of reading Prabhupada's books? I try to read that 5 pages every morning. And today I read something and really I couldn't understand that word, because he said material attachment and wanting to progress in material, and then spiritual, trying to be advanced in spiritual, doesn't go together. And he said it's ill. You have to identify, like you said, don't be speculative or try to listen to someone. And the new thing about what we said, this is what Prabhupada said, the new thing is like, Prabhupada said so many things. That's the answer you get now. Do you follow everything what Prabhupada says? That's what they tell you. And one incident just happened yesterday. A devotee got really upset at me for months and would not respond. It's a very good friend of mine, and I couldn't understand why this person, no matter what I write, and then suddenly she turned around and wrote me and said that she got offended and upset the way I've dealt with an issue over here, And then I wrote back and said, I just did what Srila Prabhupada would do. Keep your enemies to your side. That's what he mentioned many times. Don't go quarrel and fight and say things to hurt this person. You have to be gentle. You don't have to go to their level. They're getting angry at the devotees. They're writing bad things on the Facebook. I don't go all that. She happened to read all this. And even no matter how nice to this person, giving money and all that, and she was part of it. Then she realized and she was like, I'm sorry, I didn't see the way you saw it, she said. And I used the word. I said, I just did what Srila Prabhupada would have done. He said, keep your enemies to your side. It's hard to do, but I just managed to do it so there won't be any friction in the future here, It was a major thing I have to do. So then she got back and she's so sorry and she's blah, blah, blah. I don't know what else to do. It's been 5 months, she just cut me out, and I didn't know why, It's very difficult, to do the right thing and then make everybody happy, They just don't understand, It's difficult.
And then one reason why devotees have lack of trust, what you say Prabhupada said, because too many devotees would say, Prabhupada said, that he didn't say.
Oh, that's another
To
thing.
make their agenda,
Yeah.
like Prabhupada said we should paint the temple, maybe I want the temple room to be painted purple.
Yeah.
And I'll say, Prabhupada said we should paint the temple room purple, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Surely, and then they got into this big argument. He said here, he said that, blah, blah,
He
blah.
did.
Oh, thank you.
So I'd like to add that when I was in Denver just a few years back, they started, in the morning they always read something, usually Namamrita or something after Mangal. And they started reading memoirs from different devotees that knew Srila Prabhupada. And there was some things that were so new or just so shocking to some of the bhaktas that Vaisheshika announced that no longer will we read them. Because, it's coming from various sources that you don't even know if they really, whatever they witnessed or they heard was absolutely true. And it's kind of, even for me, I don't remember what it was, but it had me kind of off kilt for a while.
Yeah, I came across an article, I think this year it was written, or in 2020, by Hridayananda Maharaj, and it was like a 30-page essay on just understanding Srila Prabhupada and the difference between what Prabhupada said and what Prabhupada would say. Because they're two very different things, what he said in this case and what he would say in this other case, it's different. I don't know. That's why I was thinking of is not what Prabhupada said, but what would he say, just to put it in context.
What would you say?
Nice.
But then you get people differing on the opinion of what
Right.
Prabhupada would
They're
say.
going to speculate on
So
what
nobody
would
can
he
claim
say.
to know what Prabhupada would say.
Yeah.
We can only say, what did Prabhupada say in a particular circumstance? Time, place, and circumstance, that's all we can say. And now we have to stop putting the burden on Prabhupada, and we have to become real leaders and real spiritual masters
Yeah.
and real brahmanas and say, well, this is what I say we should do in this circumstance. And if I command authority, then you all will follow. And if I don't command authority, then I'm not a leader. So it's actually a cop-out to say, well, I think in this very strange or different modern time, place, and circumstance that Prabhupada never dealt with, that I think this is what Prabhupada would do. Well, you'll take that same situation and say, well, I think Prabhupada would do 180 degrees different.
Yeah.
So which one's right?
Yeah.
So we shouldn't put it on Prabhupada. We should just say, I, as a spiritual leader or a material leader, whatever I'm supposed to be, this is what I would do. And if you want to follow me, fantastic. If you don't,
That's okay. too.
then, if I actually have a position, you're supposed to follow me. If I don't have a position, then you don't have to follow me. So we have to be very careful in asserting that I know this is what Prabhupada would say, or I know this is what Prabhupada would do, unless it was clear cut, like we know Prabhupada would say initiates must chant 16 rounds a day. We know Prabhupada would say pujaris have to be clean and punctual. We know Prabhupada would say you have to follow 4 legs, etc., etc. But when it comes to application, he spoke, so when it comes to application to modern things that Prabhupada never had to deal with, we have to be very careful not to put it on him. We can just say, like you do in a court of law, I'm using these as my evidences. In 1972, Prabhupada said this about that in this circumstance. But then in 1976, to a different person, he said like this and like that. So how can we try to understand his real mood and and then we have to make our own decisions and not say this is what Prabhupada would do or would say, because nobody can do that unless you've got complete communion and you're talking to Prabhupada right now. And why should I believe that you're talking to Prabhupada more than I am? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
Nice. Very nice.
Jai. So, Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Yeah.
Shri Prabhupada ki jai.